Hello, Give Vibe Show fans. Welcome to episode 8 of season 15 of the Give Vibe Show by me, Jay Haley, part of the Special Chronicles Network. Hope you've all been catching up on season 15 episodes 1 through 7, seasons 1 through 14 of the Give Vibe Show, as well as their season recap specials. And, excuse me for a second, folks, my special, The Road to 2022 USA Games, which talks about my training up to and the results of my training at the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games in Orlando, Florida. So, folks, as I adjust my glasses for you, those watching video, the premise, those who are tuning in for the first time again to season 15, by this point, if you haven't, you probably be wondering what it is. So, the theme is around the history of the Good Vibe Show. So, we've talked about the origin, the premise, the formats, the podcast, the social media, join the Special Chronicles Network, guests, tech, Zoom background, and which formats was referring to the various formats I end up using. So Instagram Live to Zoom to now using Zoom OBS Studios, which is where came in season 4 and seasons 1 through 4. So today we're talking about seasons 5 through 6, which were the last two seasons to be considered the longer ones, in which when looking it over, because I'm looking that way, as season 5 was 24 episodes, and then excuse me, folks, for that. And season 6 was 14 episodes. So basically, by this point, season 5, I think I was draining myself too much. And I thought to myself, let's tone it down a bit. And so season 6 was basically because at this point, like, it was overextensive. I think so. Until like you're doing too many episodes, maybe try and tone it down a little to short time. So by season 5, it was like a span of time. But then season 6 was the first time where I was basically like one time a week. So basically, they still were running on a schedule. Technically, season 6, when I'm looking back at it, because I'm looking at the version they ran into 2022, and so by that point, seasons 4, 5, and 6. So by this point, by 2021 into 2022, I've already had over 6 seasons of the Good Vibes Show done, and I think they were more dialed back. I think I chose to dial them back for good reasons. I think it's because like finding the best rhythm, in which technically going to the format of the 12 of 13 episodes, which actually I did took an opportunity to look at this. There was actually one season after 6 that actually does 13 episodes, but the rest are all 12 season episodes, which is a good thing to talk about later on. But as you see going through 5 and 6, like there were still guests a bit, and season 6 only had one guest, which is when I especially joined the Special Chronicles Network, was season 6 officially. So yep, that's when I brought that up, and just looking it over a lot, and it's kind of a interesting combination of things. I'm looking at the original script, and I think it was in. I apologize, not looking directly at you right now. I think actually season 6 or 5, I think 5 or 6 is when I had my friend Ben Hack from Australia on. And when he came on, that was like kind of like the big episode, was like the big one, that one. I forget which, I'm pretty sure it was season 5 or 6, but it could have been. I'm also reading my notes here just to double check. And actually, Ben was actually in season 4. My apologies, I didn't mention him in season 4 in that previous episode because I talked about seasons 3 and 4. So just to note, Ben Hack was on season 4 of the Good Vibe Show, which was the first true international guest on the show and the only international guest on the show. So kudos to you, Ben, for that. So yeah, you're on, and that one was actually the most technical difficulty one to talk about. I didn't even talk about it in the last episode. But yeah, that was a technical difficulty one. But that also told me how, like, hey, let's work around that for 5 and 6. And so, yeah, you choose not to do that. There was a technical difficulty with the interview with my friend Daniel, who is the founder of the Special Chronicles Network in season 6. So, yeah, we had to dealt with it then. So we had to went to his thing he used for stream, and I think it's called StreamYard, I believe. StreamYard was the platform we used for that episode. So, yeah. But 5 and 6 were kind of like, yeah, the toning back of this show and just being more selective. who I want and how I did things. It was kind of more funny that season kind of those 2 seasons kind of was the progression of slowing it down, but also kind of getting myself more ready for the 2022 USA Games because these two were like because by this point, um, season 5, it was during the recording of that I found out actually, and now I'm looking at these notes actually, it's surprisingly there were like episodes were spread out like two to several times a week, depending on how you look at it. There were some were close together, some were not. I apologize. Looking at this, there were at least some episodes that I'm looking at were like 2 were back to back days. And not looking back at that, I actually need to look at season 6 very quick. So, folks, just looking at it, I think they were more spread out. Yeah, season 6, folks, was actually when I started doing once a week. Was right. So yeah, just let you know that right now, actually, by going through my notes here. And noticing that actually 5 was the last time I did the crazy schedule of doing 3 a week. Yeah, pretty much fun. Let you know that. But yeah, season 6 was the one where I did it like once a week. And that actually was the better format. I enjoyed it because it allowed me to think up my thoughts and everything. And so those were hearing all these paper noise and me looking down on those on film. But though, talking about it was kind of like these were like the ones that were sort of dialing it down because I had to get ready for the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games in Orlando, Florida, because I was in hardcore training mode right at the end of midway through season 5 was when I found out I was selected for the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games in Orlando, Florida. That's when I found out. And so basically, there was a reference to me talking about it in season 5 and season 6. It might have been referenced there, but season 6, a layer 7, and season 7 and 8, I think, is where I talk about it a bit more and talk about the lead up to it and also that. So yeah, I had to relook at the script writing on those, but yeah, 7 and 8 were more focused central on pre and post in that case. But yeah, by this point, 5 and 6 were more like trying to fit in my training schedule for USA Games and that. So it's kind of fun now realizing, looking back at it, that season 5 was one that coincided, ironically, and that's just random. But season 6 was sort of like, by this point, excuse my language, excuse me for a second, focusing on my training, getting ready for those games. So, or I was gearing up my training, but later seasons were more like they were more impacted. So I ended up because of my training regimen, I had to actually push back to doing like 1 episode a week in season 6. And that's actually probably the best format that ever came of the show. I kind of am thankful I went to that format because that format was so successful in season 6 that it just stuck for the rest of the way. And so rarely these days you hear me do or hardly see me doing 2 more episodes. So yeah, 5 was like the last 3 a week one because the first 5 seasons were all 3 a week to season 6, which was the first of the 1 a week format. So yeah, and that's how 5 and 6 came, and that's how actually at this point how the Give Vibe show eventually transitioned into a one a week episode, which actually works out fine. So, but we'll save more for next time for season 7 and 8 for next episode, folks. So until then, we'll talk about that then. But right now, let's wrap up today's episode with our great sponsor ad from the Special Chronicles Network. The Give Vibe show is proudly featured on the Special Chronicles Network. Visit specialchronicles.com for links to follow on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, now known as X. Be sure to also subscribe to the newsletter and find the podcast page for this podcast, The Give Vibe Show by me, Jerry Hooley. If you love The Give Vibe Show, then you love the other podcasts on the Special Chronicles Network. Visit specialchronicles.com for links to subscribe to our podcast, newsletter, and to follow us on social media. And to support the podcast on Special Chronicles so we can continue our mission of giving respect and voice to people with special talents and abilities, visit specialchronicles.com/give to make a gift aid. So, folks, as I say, this is always the big spiel there, but here's my spiel, obviously, the Mourinho is, remember to follow the Give Vibe Show on Instagram at GiveVibesByJH and Facebook.com. You can follow it on Facebook too, Facebook.com/GiveVibesByJH, YouTube, YouTube.com/GiveVibesByJH. Apologies if I'm speaking too fast. can also subscribe to the Good Vibe Show by me, Jerry Holy, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you want to support me more, you can look me up on Rebel, Jerry M. Holy. You can help me purchase some of my designs, over 120 designs. You can actually find the newer Good Vibe Show logo, which is in the Hawaiian shirt I'm wearing, obviously. And I do appreciate you all for listening in. Excuse me for a second. And just like talking about these history of the Good Vibe Show, it's kind of, I heard down memory lane and trying to also remember like why I did, but it's a good way to think about it. So yeah, I just thank you all again for tuning in, and until next time, folks, peace out, boop, blah, blah, and I'll see you next week for episode 9 of season 15 of the Good Vibe Show by me, Jerry Holy, part of the Special Chronicles Art. Until next time, everyone, goodbye, everyone, and stay safe. Bye, everyone.